Furuto, Japan, in between Kyoto and another similarly small town, 1987. Hitomi Ihedo, a complete slacker, and general loser in every regard, gets pressured into taking the exam for his local prefecture's best school. But he decides to do something astounding. Instead, he's going big time, a high-end school in Tokyo. Of course, his parents were not happy with him in the slightest for leaving the community, but he felt like the people in his junior high school just weren't his type. As in, too obnoxiously energetic. Here's the thing though. He never studied for this exam. Other than going to classes, and practically falling asleep every time he couldn't pay attention, nothing really boosted his smarts. He was confident he was going to make it, despite not having the grades to have said confidence. The day of the exam, he realized he was running late, ate some sugar cereal, ate his bread on the day to the station, and rode it all the way to the capital point. But then he realized all the other guys seemed exactly like his old classmates, only even more stuck up and obnoxious. He had truly made the biggest mistake of his life. And with that disappointment, he wrote the exam. He hadn't a clue on what could possibly be the right answers other than to the most basic things. And math. But he always was good at math. He finished, walked out. But realizing the train wouldn't come until 4, he kinda was upset. But he held on to his bravado like a champ. Good thing that a schedule inconvenienced him, because he got to look at the female students, all of them acting seemingly much more his speed. Maybe, well, it wasn't a bad idea. He'll just befriend the girls. Not really date them or anything. He's not like that. Until one of them came to him. What the hell? What's his neighbor Manami Shimomura doing here? She had grown to be quite a keeper, and kind of beautiful. Thing is, they are childhood friends, and it'd be real weird to date someone who lives right next to his house. That's privacy invasion 101 right there. Oh hey Hitomi. Never thought you wanted to come here of all places. Yeah, I want some independence, and besides, I need some new guy friends and a better life. And have you found any of that yet? No, he depressingly says. That's my Hitomi for ya. Picky and selective, when it comes to everything. Believe it or not, this school is going to be perfect for you. Thanks. I never actually did any research about the place. Wait, you were going in blind? Of course. I mean, I'm a proud member of the Go Straight Home Club. Or board in this case. Yeah, maybe I do need a club. I'll go get a list for you to read over. She goes back inside, while he just sits there and waits. Once she gets back outside and hands him the paper, she says, "And when on earth are you going to ever let me come over? I gotta make sure you don't have any megs lying about." What a funny joke Manami. You know I don't do that thing at all. Why on earth do you keep them then? Free sketching materials actually. Wow, surprisingly innocent. Well, since we got 30 minutes before we have to move to catch the train, are you really proud of anything you make so far? No, it all feels dry, like it doesn't have something you know. Just like my life. Profound and also sad. Tell you what? I'm coming over. What? You can't do that out of the blue. My parents will kill me. Manami teases Hitomi until 3:30 p.m., which they then take the route together to get back home, and against all of his protests, she comes over. They spend the evening playing 8-bit video games and looking at drawings. She leaves at 9, and he dozes off into sleep. It came to an utter shock, weeks later, when he found out that he and Manami were the only students to actually pass the test. With him somehow getting fantastic marks, meaning to student school. This immensely disappointed him, even though everyone on the street held a party in his honor. However, when he finally went to school, he realized what two-person school actually meant. He and Manami are the only ones who got boarding, meaning they have a whole complex to themselves. However, that did not stop students from attending. To his horror, only 2 of the girls he saw from the exam actually made it, and the women who got in seemed to be strangely stuck up just like everyone else. At the end of March, Hitomi's entire friend base were athletic girls. He didn't have thoughts for them, neither did they. To him, they were like boyfriends, the kind you hang out with, phone, go to movies casually to see action films, that kind of friendship. Hitomi remained clubless. The year really seems to suck so far. But all that would change. To the shock of everyone, an American transfer student by the name of Ellis Tanner showed up, in her custom-made uniform. And it seemed very obvious that she was being feminine with her words, always being ultra-confident and snarky at times. That was in the first day though. No interest in her was really gained when she came in. It was only when she, like himself, took playing volleyball in phase. It as casually as possible, did he figure out something. She's got a small body, and is perfectly aware of the fact. So, stressing herself out would be a waste. Well, until someone thought she was a pussy and challenged her to a 1v1. That 1v1 showed many things. First off, she was fantastic at sports despite her chill attitude. Second, her booty lit up the whole male side of the room, and finally, she mauled the shit out of the top jock in class. That put her on a double pedestal, most sought after girl. The boys were trying to flirt with her and date her, as well as fantasizing about her. The average slap rate of guys trying to hit on her per day is on average 10 times. The girls, on the other hand, were very jealous, except for Manami, who honestly is more concerned about Hitomi's well-being than whether or not Alice not having boobs is an unfair advantage. To her, Alice was just another American idiot. Point. Until she ended up getting the room in between Manami and Hitomi, which had Manami barge her way into her room and call his parents. Which had them call Hitomi and tell him not to sneak into girls' rooms at night, or go after women that want to take his flower. Day 4 of Alice being at school. She now has a fan club, all members of which were slapped for trying to peek and snapshot her changing. The other girls are leading a coalition to make sure she doesn't ruin their school lives and are even running for class president, as a united party. However, Hitomi's circle is practically unaffected. They still do exactly what they keep doing, despite Manami spying on Alice, whenever she gets the chance. No one's going to get past Hitomi's best friend after all. Day 9 of Alice being in the school. Turns out she's also clubless, but for some reason shows up to the volleyball practices and hoots people in 1v2s. It's a great time for the boys to look at her volleyball but without being noticed, but despite them succeeding, Manami takes the cameras away and burns them in a campfire in June. She also wonders if Hitomi is actually getting naughty feelings like the other guys, and is afraid puberty might change him too much. But he's just off playing his 8-bit games that day, with Susumu, his first new girl friend this time. He mostly treats her like a guy, and they both are entertained. Manami checks on the two, and they are far away from each other, appropriately clothed, and with Susumu wanting to sleep in his bathroom instead of by him. Day 13 of Alice being at school. The fan club has grown bigger and bigger, and the school is now on an electoral civil war, those who think Alice is a goddess, and those who think Alice is a bad influence. Alice very clearly doesn't care, and moves. Also Susumu and Alice don't know how to swim. This pleases the guys who wanted to look at Alice's butt once again, but the girls are beginning to really not like the lack of attention they're getting, because they are doing a much better job. Hitomi is planning a shopping trip with the 3 friends he has, as well as continuing his sketches, still thinking they don't have that something he's looking for, but he still has no idea what. That's the only thing stopping him from being a mangaka already. Day 14 of Alice being at school. Alice seems to like comics and manga, anything with pictures. She often goes to the library, takes out a book, reads it inside her room, and the next day, return it and get another. The fan club often reads whatever she read yesterday in hopes of being able to get her attention, but at this point, Alice takes shortcuts to avoid stalkers at all costs. Also, this is the first time when Alice talk gets into Hitomi's circle. They think the whole drama and obsession is ridiculous and honestly pretty immature. Alice is just a girl, not some super celebrity. She deserves her own privacy too. They proceed to laugh at ironic humor on TV right after. Actually, today is when Susumu brings up that she can swim, bewildering everyone there. For someone who happens to be great at basketball and volleyball, she can't paddle. Oh well, looks like they are going to have to help her. It's April after all. They get to the indoor pool, only to find Ichino there. Wait, the Bumpkin family kind of Ichino? Hey guys. How's it going? Just swimming to forget all this wacky drama, am I right? He then looks to Hitomi. Wow, I heard stories about the legendary quiet kid from Rayfu Thiruto. I knew you could pull off some cool tricks, if you tried. But we haven't even met you before. Nonsense. To God, everyone is a neighbor no matter what. Anyway, it's about 6 he thinks for a moment. Let me guess. Susumu is trying to figure out how to swim? At a girl. This guy sure is weird. But strangely soothing. They get into the pool, Mr. Ichino getting out of the pool just to be nice, and Manami holds Susumu by the hands. She seems to be able to float pretty well, but her thing is that she can't stand water in her nose, making her be blinded by the water all the time. So, the friend group tries a solution, by putting some swimming goggles on her. She can see now, but the water in her nose is bothering her again. Mr. Ichino still seems to be cheering for her. Holy, that guy is nice. But Susumi keeps trying, and trying, and trying. Eventually, she is bothered by it a little less, and they congratulate her for it. They don't jokingly flirt, since Mr. Ichino is here, and he probably is holding a Christian pool gathering. But once they do get out, he says something encouraging. If you guys are really worried about if you'll be noticed, don't worry about it. I already think you three girls are pretty cute, and being blessed with a guy like Hitomi, for a friend is amazing. Don't worry. We won't try to date him. He's not into us. They jokingly say, as they leave the pool and enter their gender-locked changing rooms. The three girls felt strangely warm for some reason, and they had no clue why. However, Manami gets praised for her swimming abilities, but she says she's just average, yeah no?